Hi, I'm Kathy and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to take some leftover prime rib beef that we had for Christmas and I'm going to make some beef stew. It just seems like such a really good, rich, yummy dish to make with this leftovers. And luckily I have a cup of the gravy that was left from the drippings, and I've got a good amount of this yummy prime rib beef, and we're gonna put potatoes and carrots and onions and bell peppers and fire roasted tomatoes, and it's gonna be a really good hearty beef stew. And I know you guys laugh, but it does get cold in Florida. It does drop down to, you know, the 50s at night, 40s sometimes, even colder. And so I love to have a really nice hearty beef stew. So let's get cooking. I have a good amount of prime rib left, and actually if you have other cuts of beef, you can use that too. But my purpose of this video is to show you what to do with leftover beef. And I have my big soup pot. So now I'm going to take the beef and cut a lot of the fat off of here. And just go ahead and make it into nice chunks. Throw it into the pot. I don't want to have all these big fatty pieces in the stew. Now with these two rib bones that I have left, I'm just going to throw them in just like this so that the meat will come off the bone as we simmer it for a long time. It has a little bit of fat on it, but not that much, and I think it will add to the flavor of the stew. So here you see the meat I have in there and the two bones with the meat on. Now I'm going to add 4 cups of water and the 1 cup of the gravy au jus, because this has got all the seasonings of flavor, the garlic and everything, but I'm going to be putting more garlic into the stew too. And just kind of stir it around in the water in here. And that is what your beef broth base is going to be. I don't think I need to use any extra beef broth or bouillon or anything, because what was left from the au jus was just so thick and so rich. And then I'm going to also add a cup of red wine. Not sweet wine. Don't use sweet wine. Use Cabernet or Merlot or just a regular red table wine, but not sweet wine. I'm also going to throw in 3 cloves of garlic. Just kind of squish them, smash them down a little bit. And we'll just put this on the stove now and get it to a boil, and then turn the heat down to medium-low and let this simmer for an hour. While the broth is cooking for the stew and the meat is also getting tender, we'll go ahead and prepare our vegetables. I'm only using about 1/2 of a green bell pepper that I had in the fridge, and I have 2 small onions, or you can have 1 large white onion, but I had 2 small ones, and 4 carrots I peeled. I've got a cup, 3 sticks of celery and some potatoes. I also like to peel my potatoes too. So go ahead and prep your vegetables. For a stew, I like to have chunky bits, and so I won't make them small, you know, about that size. And you can just go ahead and have all this prepped, ready to go for when the beef is ready. Also, while the beef is cooking and stewing, I should say, you want to check the water. This is not a beef soup, so I do want to make sure that there's enough water in there to make the stew sauce thick enough, but not too much that it then turns into beef soup. So just kind of watch that. You may need to add additional water, but I thought with a cup of the leftover thick au jus sauce and a cup of red wine and 4 cups of water would do it. Since the prime rib was pretty seasoned to begin with different kinds of herbs, I believe we used rosemary and thyme and garlic. I'm not going to add any more of those herb seasonings to this because, believe me, that rich au jus sauce that was left is so flavorful. But adding the few cloves of garlic was a good thing. It's always a good thing to add more garlic, in my opinion. And in the stew, I also like to do celery and green bell peppers. Some people like to put green peas in their stew. I mean, you can do that too. As far as when the vegetables go in, they won't go in until I know that the meat is falling off on the bone, because it won't take very long for the vegetables to cook up. And did I mention that if you don't have leftover prime rib, maybe you have a leftover steak or leftover chuck roast or something like that, you can do that too. Just any really cut of beef that you can just cook, simmer, let the meat just really get very tender. Because really, if you made beef stew from the stew meat that you can get at the grocery store, and they call it stew, cut up stew meat, that is a really tough cut of meat. And the longer you cook that, the softer the meat gets. So with the prime rib, this is just going to be so yummy. And also, if you put the vegetables in too soon, then they will get overcooked and get mushy, so you don't want that to happen. And now we have all the vegetables chopped up, ready to go when it's time to put it into the stew. Oh my goodness, if you could just smell this. It smells so yummy. Putting the red wine in this, it just smells so good. And you can see the richness of this sauce. Ooh, camera's steaming up. There we go, come on. I still have my Christmas platter out. Okay, so I've turned it down to medium-low, and I'm gonna let this simmer for an hour. We're gonna put the lid on so that we don't let any of this yumminess escape out. So we'll be back. So it's been an hour, and now I've got the bones out, and you can see how the meat has kind of cooked away from the bone here. So very tender. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna cut. Okay. Cow. He smells this beef and he's like excited, thinking he's gonna get some of it in his dinner. Anyways, this meat is just falling off the bone. It's so wonderful. I'm going to cut away this meat and I'm going to add it to the stew. And then I'm going to add the vegetables to let that cook. And I'll probably let that cook for about 30 minutes. And dinner should be... Okay, baby, I know. You're so excited about this. And as I was saying, I'm going to let it cook for about another 30 minutes and the vegetables should be all done and everything will be great. I'm debating on whether I need to make some cornbread or just pop some of those wonderful dinner rolls that I made for Christmas that I have left over in my freezer and just heat those up. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Anyways, let's add this over there, and since I opened that bottle of red wine, guess what? I'm having a sip while I'm cooking. There's the vegetables added in with the stew, and we'll let that, I'm gonna bump the temperature up to get it back to boiling again, and then reduce the heat again to medium low and let it simmer for another 30 minutes. Also, I added in a can of fire roasted diced tomatoes into the beef stew, and it just looks amazing. It smells wonderful. The vegetables are coming along in the stew. I let it cook on medium low for 30 minutes. I checked it, and the vegetables are still not quite as tender as I like them to be, so I'm going to let them cook for another 15-20 minutes and see how they come out. We also like the stew to be a little bit thicker, so I'm going to take about a half a cup of the juice from the stew, and I'm going to whisk in some flour just to thicken up the stew a little bit. So there's a tablespoon. I'm going to use probably a couple of tablespoons of flour, and then I'm going to add this and whisk this back into the pot. Meanwhile, I had some of the sweet rolls that I made for Christmas from scratch for the first time, and they came out so good. Yummy, yummy. I had a few left over, and I popped them in the freezer. So I took them out, and I'm going to put them in the toaster oven and heat them up, and we'll have them with our beef stew. Now I'm going to take this flour mixture and whisk it into the pot just to thicken this stew up a little bit. Some more juice in here to get out all of that flour mixture. Oh, you could smell this. Adding red wine to beef stew, it just enhances the flavor so much more. You really need to do that. As it cooks, the alcohol does cook out. So if you're worried about the alcohol, there's no need. But it does add to the flavor of the stew, and it's just so yummy. So as you can see, the potatoes and the carrots are still a little on the hard side, not chew, but I'd like to cook it a little bit longer so that when I press into the carrots, they'll break in half. But it's coming along, and it smells so yummy. I'm also going to leave the lid off and while it simmers. That also helps make the stew a little thicker too. I'm going to try tasting the broth. Let's see. Oh my goodness. This tastes so great. Can't wait. As you can see, the stew has thickened, and it looks just delicious. Smells wonderful too. Vegetables are nice and cooked, and you know what? I mean, we're going to eat it tonight, but it is going to be so much better tomorrow. I always find that stews and soups taste so much better the second day. I'm heating up the dinner rolls, and we'll be ready to eat dinner in just a sec. Oh my goodness, this looks so amazing. Look at that. Can you see it? Is it focusing? Come on, camera. Oh wow. Oh, it's just smells so yummy. And we're gonna taste this. Okay. Oh, the bowl's a little hot. Gotta be careful. Alrighty. As you can see, that stew's thickened up. And oh, I know, Tao, I know. Let's get a little bit of beef here. Oh my goodness. Oh, that wine makes a huge difference. This is so yummy. Hot, hot, hot. Okay, have to wait on that one. Well, I hope you like this video, and I hope you give me a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and click on that little bell so you get notification of my next video. So easy to make these nice leftovers from holiday meals or anytime when you have some leftover beef or whatever. So I know it's cold in a lot of places in the US, so get your beef out and make some stew. It's yummy and it fills your tummy and makes you all nice and warm. So see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.